Hello, everybody. Today we're going to do another political shift, and this time we've got the presidential trends in each state between 2016 and 24. Last time we just took a look at the swing or the shift in each state. This time we're going to compare those swings to the national swing to get the overall trend. Sometimes there's some confusion about a swing and a trend, but we're going to go through it. First, let's put up the background information about the two elections we're going to look at. We've seen this before, but back in 2016, Trump won the Electoral College. He finished with 304 electoral votes. He won 30 states plus Maine second. He lost the popular vote with 46.1. Hillary Clinton snatched 227 electoral votes, 20 states plus DC, and she got the popular vote with 48.2. And then in 2024, Trump wins again. This time he gets 312 in the Electoral College. He gets 31 states plus Maine second, and he wins the popular vote with 49.9. Kamala Harris gets 226 votes. She gets 19 states plus DC and Nebraska second, and she finishes with 48.4 of the national popular vote. So at the end, like every other time, we're going to have a map, but for now we've got the big beautiful spreadsheet here, and we've got the states in the left column. Then we've got the 2016 Hillary Clinton vote, followed by the 2016 Trump vote. Then it's going to be the 2024 vote for Harris, then Trump. Then we've got the margin in each state in 2016, then the margins for 2024. Then we've got the swings between those two margins. And finally, the most important column in this video are going to be the trends. So we've got 3 elections in 8 years to compare. So let's first get our baseline, and for that we've got to look at the national movement. So in 2016, Hillary Clinton got 48.2% of the popular vote. Trump got 46.1. And as we just saw in 2024, Harris got 48.4 while Trump pulled in 49.9. So the margin in 2016 was Hillary Clinton won it by 2.1. The margin in 2024 was Trump won it by 1.5. So that's an overall swing of 3.6 between the two elections. That's going to be 2.1% away from the Dems to get back to even, and then 1.5 toward Trump. That combines to 3.6. That's the national popular vote shift. We're going to compare all the other states to that number to get the trend. So one last thing to mention before we get started is I try to take most of the data from Wikipedia and Dave Leap's Atlas of U.S. presidential elections. Sometimes there's a small inconsistency with some of the data, and it's always possible there's a small mistake that slips through, but for the most part, this should be fairly accurate. Now, with that said, let's get started here. We're going to look at Alabama first. In 2016, Hillary Clinton got 34.5% here. Trump won it with 62.1. In 24, Harris ticked down slightly to 34.1, and Trump went up a little bit to 64.6. That margin for Trump in 2016 was 27.6. The margin for him in 2024 was 30.5. That means the state swung 2.9 toward Trump and the Republicans. So he clearly improved, but the national popular vote moved 3.6. So Alabama did not move quite as much as the entire nation did. So the trend in this state is going to be 0.7% toward the Democrats. So hopefully it all makes sense, but I think we can quickly go through the rest of these states. Alaska swung 1.6 toward the Dems. That's in the opposite direction of the 3.6 national swing toward the Republicans. So that comes out to a blue trend of 5.2. Arizona had a small blue trend of 1.5. Arkansas had almost zero trend whatsoever, just 0.1% toward the GOP. California trended pretty hard toward the right, and that's going to be by 6.3. Colorado had the biggest trend out of all the states. It went a massive 9.7 toward the Democrats. Connecticut got bluer by 4.4. Delaware by 6.9. Florida went totally in the opposite direction, 8.3 toward Trump and the Republicans. Georgia, it's a blue trending state, and this confirms it did so by 6.6. Hawaii, that's a blue state, but that got a lot redder by 5.8. Idaho also trended right by 1.1. Illinois did the same thing by an additional point, 2.1. Indiana trended blue by 3.8. Iowa was almost at a standstill, just 0.1 toward the right. Now we've got some blue trends. We've got Kansas at 7.9, Kentucky 2.8, Louisiana 1.2, Maine 7.6, Maryland 5.6, Massachusetts 1.6, Michigan 2.5, and Minnesota 0.9. Mississippi had a bigger red shift than the national one, so it trended 1.5 toward the Republicans. Missouri trended a little bit back toward the Dems by 3.7. Montana was similar at 4.1, but Nebraska was even bluer than that at 8.1. Nevada back toward the right by 1.9. New Hampshire a big blue trend of 6.2. New Jersey, though, had a big red trend of 4.6. New Mexico, a small blue trend of 1.3. New York had the second biggest red trend after Florida. It did so by 6.5. Now we've got a bunch more blue trends. North Carolina, 4%. North Dakota, 2.9. Ohio, a half a point. Oklahoma, 5.7. Oregon, 6.9. Pennsylvania, 2.6. And Rhode Island, 1.8. And how about South Carolina? It shifted 3.6 toward the right. That was the same as the national shift. That means it had a dead even trend, so no shift in either direction. South Dakota, bluer by 4.2. Tennessee, a tiny red trend of 0.1%. Texas, a little bit more than that, 1.1 redder. And look at Utah, not to be outdone by South Carolina. The perfect shift, it means no trend yet again. In Vermont, it almost trended bluer than Colorado at 9.3. And the rest of these are going to be blue trends. We've got Virginia at 3.5, Washington 6.1, West Virginia 3.8, Wisconsin 3.4, and Wyoming 4.1. And then we've got Washington, D.C. on here, just 0.6% bluer. So those are all the states, and those are all of the shifts. If you want to help visualize this data, let's take it all, let's put it on a map. So here it is, and we've got very similar shading. The darkest colors are going to be 10 or more point trends. The lightest colors are going to be under 1 point trends. Those are going to be the tilt margins. So we've got 4 levels of shading. And are there any takeaways from these trends? Well, a couple of things to mention. First of all, 2016 did have a lot more third-party vote than 2024. And certain states like Utah actually had a lot more of it than others. So with less third-party vote in the recent election, more of that is going to go into the 2 major parties. And the other thing to mention here is I also have the congressional districts shaded in Nebraska and Maine. But also keep in mind, especially in Nebraska, there was since redistricting between 2016 and 24. So that first and second district trended more than 10 points toward the left. The redistricting is going to have an effect on that, but it's also clear that the state overall just trended in that direction anyway. Now, aside from that, we can go back to the top. The national popular vote shift was 3.5 toward Trump. So if the popular vote in each state also did not swing at least 3.6 toward the right, then the trend is going to be blue. So there's a lot of red states on here. They have a bit of a blue trend. At a glance, it might come off as a little bit misleading because most of the movement was toward Trump, but a lot of times it just happened to be by less than 3.6. In the population-heavy states like California, Texas, Florida, Illinois, New Jersey, and New York, those states all swung more to the right than the national movement. That's a big reason Trump clearly won the popular vote in 24. And this map shows you those states are in red, and that means they had significant movement toward Trump because there was already a lot of movement in his direction already. They just happened to move a lot more. Now there's some bright spots on here for the Democrats. Georgia, that's a key swing state that actually swung away from Trump. That's why it had a more than 5% trend toward the left. It's the same thing in a few other states like Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma, the Pacific Northwest, and a few states on the East Coast. But overall, this is not supposed to be the most mind-blowing data to look at. As I said, the larger share of third-party vote in 16 is going to be a factor. And both of these elections across 8 years were completely wild in their own ways. Trump was a part of both of them, but there's going to be specific issues in different states as to why they moved in a certain direction. We know one of the significant reasons is going to be the Hispanic movement toward Trump. They're going to be a big driver in a lot of these red trends. They just happen to move a lot more than other demographics. But the main takeaway is I think it's just fun to see where the movement is across different elections. It doesn't necessarily all have to make perfect sense. I like to make these because I think it's fun to see where the movement is. And usually there's a couple of surprises or two by the time I get to the end. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of the trends here between 2016 and 24? Which states surprised you the most? Did I make any mistakes? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to help support the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.